What's up everybody, it's Drew Wilkins with Swine and Bovine Barbecue, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make competition style ribs. So let's get going. Going with St. Louis spares for our competition ribs. I typically would get a full rack of spare ribs and trim it down to get this, save the extra meat for some sausage, but the grocery store is out of full spares, so I got the St. Louis cut rack. We'll make do with it, but the trim job is pretty typical. The only thing I'm going to do different this time is I will remove the membrane. But they had already removed the skirt meat on most of this, so we'll just take what's off. I'm gonna take off this last bone over here, really just square these ribs up. Looking at the top to see where I want to cut it, and presentation is a huge thing in competitions, right? So this is not gonna present very well, so we're gonna cut this rack of ribs off just after this bone. Take a little bit of this fat off, because that is not gonna get great color. We've got a little excess fat right here, so I'm just going to trim this down. If we don't take that fat off, it's going to be tough to get the bright red color we want on these ribs. Got a little extra meat right here we'll take off. Want a nice uniform shape on these. Looking good, let's remove the membrane. Removing a membrane is simple enough. We're going to get our knife, just a butter knife, underneath it. Grab our paper towel and just pull. Said it was simple enough. I don't remove membranes very often. It's not how I typically cook ribs. I leave the rib membrane on. I think in a lot of scenarios, especially direct heat cooking, it adds to the character of the rib. But these ribs are for competition, and we want them to be nice, uniform, no membrane. So I'm gonna work on getting this sucker peeled off. So like I said, simple enough. Our membrane's removed. Let's season these up. Sweet with a little bit of heat is gonna be the theme for these ribs, and that's definitely reflected in this rub. So to start things off, we're gonna go in with some brown sugar, kosher salt, coarse black pepper, paprika, cayenne, and a little MSG. Pop our lid on, give this a shake. Our rub is done. I don't typically use a binder, but for this, we're gonna use one. Pull the membrane, it's pretty dry right here. So go on with a little bit of mustard. Just French's good old original yellow mustard. Now we're gonna go on with our rub. Just a nice even coating. Flip it over, repeat the process. Make sure and get your sides. Our ribs are nicely seasoned, so let's go fire up the pit. Our pit's cruising along at 250 degrees, so it's time to get these ribs on. Get them nice and tight, nice and straight. Malcolm Reed always says they're gonna cook how you have them on the grate. So get them nice, straight. These are good to go. We're gonna roll them at 250 degrees till the color's right, the bark is set, and then we'll wrap them. But in the meantime, let's go make a glaze and barbecue sauce. So one of the things we're gonna make for our ribs is a glaze. It's also known as a rib candy. Texas Pepper Jelly makes them, Cosmos Q makes them, so you can buy them commercially, but it's more fun to make things at home, so that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna start out by making a simple syrup, which is just 1 part water, 1 part sugar. Gonna whisk this up to dissolve the sugar. We're also gonna add in 1 habanero. It's halved. I removed the seeds, the ribs, to try and control the heat a little bit. We don't want it to be burn your mouth hot, but we want it to impart the fruity flavor from the habanero as well as some of the heat too. Our sugar has dissolved, so we're gonna go in with some apple juice as well as some cherry juice. Mix it up. We're up to a boil, so now we're gonna add some pectin. This is gonna give us a thicker consistency and make it more like a glaze as opposed to a liquid or simple syrup. Now we're gonna mix this in, let it go for another 2-3 minutes at a gentle simmer, and we'll cool it off. We'll be done with our glaze. Our rib glaze is done. I removed the habanero from it. We're not looking for anything super gloopy. We just want it to be a decent amount thicker than water, but not syrupy thick. And we've landed on that, so we're done. For our sauce, we're gonna start off with some ketchup, apple cider vinegar, Worcestershire, brown sugar, coarse black pepper, chili powder, cumin, and lastly, kosher salt. Jumped the gun, one more, cayenne pepper. Forgot one other thing, some hot sauce. Now whisk it again. Hope we didn't forget anything else. And then our sauce is done. Nearly 4 hours into the cook, the bark is set. We've got the color we want, so it's time to wrap these. So these are a little darker than we ideally want them, but in my experience, this color will wash away a little bit in the wrap, leaving us with the color that we want, that's more red, bright red, that you want for a competition style rib. So let's pull these and go wrap them. For our wrap, we're gonna go down with 3 tablespoons of butter, some hot honey, and then some of our glaze. Now let's go ahead and place our ribs on top, wrap them up, put them back on the pit. I'm gonna ramp the temp up to 275-ish now that the ribs are wrapped. We don't have to worry about the edges getting too crispy or burned, but we're gonna shut it down until they're nice and tender. After about an hour and a half in the wrap, these ribs are feeling nice and tender, so let's take them inside and sauce them. So let's see how these are looking. Yeah, those look pretty good. Great color. We did get some of the color washed away due to the wrap and the liquid. It's just kind of braising in its own liquid a little bit. Some of the fat that I talked about when we were trimming is showing up as well, but still a great looking rack of ribs. So let's sauce them. One thing I like to do when saucing, learned it from Malcolm Reed actually, which is where I learned how to make competition ribs and the first ribs I ever started cooking. But build a little boat out of aluminum foil with some sides. That way you can just transfer your ribs right to them, paint them, take them and put them right back on the smoker. For our sauce for our ribs, what I have here is about 2 parts of the barbecue sauce we made and 1 part of the rib candy / rib glaze that we made. It's warm. If it's not warm and you start to put the sauce on the ribs, you'll see a lot of streak marks from the brush. We don't want that. So the sauce is heated up so it's thinner. It'll look a little thinner, but we'll put it back on the pit and it'll tack up and look real, real nice. Our ribs took about 12 minutes on the smoker for the sauce to tack up. As soon as they came off, I lightly brushed them again with a little extra sauce, let them rest, and here we are. So before we dig in, got one thing left to do, and we're gonna hit them with a little bit more of our rub over the top. Just a really, really light coating. There's not much coming out. I'm not sure if you can see. I know 3 passes sounds like a lot, but it's not as much as you think. Not very good at cutting bone side up, so I'm gonna flip these over. If we lose too much sauce, then I'll just re-sauce them and slice into them. I'm not gonna add any more sauce to them. I think they look just fine. If it was a competition, and I've actually, just to clarify, I've not done a competition before. I love cooking competition style ribs. It's what I started out cooking way back in Chicago with my buddy Taylor. He had a big green egg, lived on the bottom floor of a walk-up, and we would cook ribs as often as we could. And that's how we learned to cook barbecue, really up first, was Malcolm Reed on YouTube, following his videos. Matt Pittman from Meat Church, following his videos. So really learned this style of cooking, these competition style ribs, was what I started out on. So it's fun to make them again. If I was putting these in a box, I probably didn't do a good job picking out the rack. The bones are angled, would lose some presentation points based on that, but we're not doing that today. We're here to eat, so let's dig in. The work is done. Time to dig in. I'm gonna grab this rib, kind of close to the end here. Looks fantastic. Cheers. That is a damn good rib. And it's full of nostalgia for me. Like I said, learning to cook barbecue in Chicago, my buddy Taylor, we cooked ribs as often as we could, but we made these competition style ribs. That's how we learned to cook barbecue, was through YouTube, Malcolm Reed, Matt Pittman, looking at their competition recipes, starting out, you know, the 3-2-1 method, 3 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped. And really this just brings back memories of doing that, as well as the flavor. It's really good. If you like a sweet rib, this is right in your wheelhouse of what you want. The sauce we made is not overly sweet. You know, it's a little vinegar predominant actually, but when you counteract that with the sweetness of the rib glaze we made, it goes together really, really well. And I recommend making your own sauces, making your own rib glazes. You know, if not my YouTube video, find some other ones out there. If you like a tomato heavy sauce, maybe dial back the vinegar or add more ketchup. You know, I'm a backyard cook. That's what this whole channel is taking the things that I've learned and passing that knowledge along to you. Like, I didn't know how to make my own rib candy a while ago. I don't remember how long it was, a year or so. I saw a Texarkana barbecue video where he made his own rib glaze, and I remember he used pectin in it. And it's a lot of fun to make things on your own. There's a ton of great commercially available products out there. Texas pepper jelly, Cosmos Q for the rib glaze. There's a million decent great barbecue sauces even. But it's fun to make your own. You really learn how flavors interact with each other when you make it on your own versus going out and buying something and not really knowing how it comes together. And if you ever want to know the ingredients and the amount that's in them, when you read a label on the back of rub or sauce, ingredients are listed by the amount that's in them. So if the first ingredient's ketchup and the second one's apple cider vinegar, well, you know there's more ketchup than apple cider vinegar. Or if it's brown sugar on a rub, then salt, there's more brown sugar than salt in that rub. So with that in mind, go out and make your own rubs, make your own sauces, and then you can produce a great product. I mean, these ribs, I can eat these ribs every day. They're incredibly good. To pack the most amount of flavor that you can into one bite with some sweetness, there's not as much heat as I'd like, so I'd probably leave that habanero in the rib candy a little longer and add more cayenne pepper to the rub and more cayenne pepper to the barbecue sauce. But it's got the sweetness, a twinge of heat. Again, would do a little more there next time. But these ribs are a home run. Really, really good. So that's gonna do it for this one. I appreciate y'all watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. And if you make anything I cook, these ribs, andouille sausage, bratwurst, any of my other videos, please tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see how it turned out for you. My handle is @Swine and Bovine BBQ. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna devour the rest of these. Have a good one.